So I just wrapped up one video about Christians and the war on drugs, and I gotta keep going on this for a little bit. You know, one thing I mentioned right there towards the end is the drug addict, and there's two problems with the war on drugs. Well, many more problems than that, but two I want to address is that it does nothing to reduce the primary factor behind drug consumption, and that is addiction. And if you're a Christian, you know, it's our job to love drug addicts and try to help drug addicts. The best way to reduce drug consumption would be to have less addicts out there. Now, if you believe in your faith at all, and you believe in the power of Christ to change one's life, which I think is a pretty integral part of any of the Christian denominations' faith, whether you're Catholic or Protestant or non-denominational, if you believe in the power of Christ to change people's lives, and this is reflected in statistics, why not try to gather those people in rather than to shun those people and relegate them to a life of prison and destroy, you know, their family unit, you know, in the process. So what I mean is, and statistics show this as well, that when we are complicit in the war on drugs, we send all our money off to the government, and the government does all of this stuff on punishment and enforcement, and they do nothing on the side of hardly treating the drug addict, which is the demand for it. And I think it would be so much more effective for the populace to keep their money and pour that money into drug rehabilitation centers and Christian-based counseling and addiction programs. And even if you believe in the effectiveness of the local church at all, why not just put that money into the local church, even if your local church doesn't have an addiction program? If you believe in the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ, why not just expand your church to reach more people? And believe in what you say you believe in, and that is the power of Christ to change lives and to do things for people that they can't do for themselves. And bring drug addicts and people like that under the umbrella of that organization and have Christ change their life that way. So in general, I believe even if not one penny of the money was spent directly towards Christian-based drug programs, but if it were put into the church in general, I think it would be more effective. And specifically, we're having money taken out of our hands that could be used for Christian-based counseling, Christian-based rehabilitation programs that would actually help those people rather than relegate them to the life of a convict. Because when, you know, they're obviously destroying their own lives and their families' lives when they're involved in this activity, but once they're taken away to jail for 15, 20 years, whatever it may be, of course their whole family unit breaks down and leaves a legacy and a pattern, a cycle of, you know, abuse, neglect, abandonment, and all these issues that are so destructive to families. So I think our job as Christians is to restore, not to just send them away. The second point is God himself and Jesus Christ, but God, I believe, created man with free will. And God himself gives humans the option of whether or not they want to serve him. If you're a Christian, you believe that's the most important aspect of a person's life. Much more important than anything else. But yet God gives you a free choice in that. He doesn't force you to serve him or to love him or to obey his laws. Everywhere in the Bible, says, whosoever will. Or he says, come and follow me. He wants us to do certain things, but we have a free will. Don't you see people turning away from God all the time? So we know as a fact that it's free will for people to do even the most important thing that they can do with their lives, and that is turn to God. It's still free will. So in things that are less important, shouldn't people still have free will? See, my opinion on this is, if God leaves us as free moral agents, then who are we to do any different? God leaves us as free moral agents, but we want our government to impose morality on everybody. And first of all, it won't work. Second of all, God doesn't do that with us in the first place. And so that's where the saying comes, you're trying to play God. You're trying to live people's lives for them. And if somebody's determined to turn away and make bad decisions, you can't stop them. And you should try. But even God gives us free will to do what we want to, even if it means messing up. Second thing is, if you believe that because Christians don't want people to use drugs, then that should be law, then you get into the problem of, well, whose vision of Christianity are we going to make law? Are we going to make the Mormons' vision of Christianity law, where you can't have caffeine, but you can have as many wives as you want to? Are we going to make the Catholic version of Christianity law, where you can have wine, but you can't do other things? Are we going to make the Baptist version of Christianity law, where it's okay to dance? Where it's not okay to dance, but you can do these other things? So see, whose version of Christianity are we going to make into that law? So it's not a given that because the Christians believe something that it should be a law. Second of all, God gives us free will. Who are we to take it away from somebody, even if it means them messing up their lives? Because God gives people free will to mess up their lives in the biggest way possible, and that is to reject him, if you believe in Christianity. And second of all, we ought to spend more time loving and trying to, third of all, we ought to spend more time loving, caring for, trying to help, and bringing addicts into the fold and trying to restore their life, rather than pursuing this war on drugs, which is even more destructive to the addict than he is to himself through his own addiction. So that's my take on Christians and drugs. If Christians really want less drugs out there, and they want more whole human beings, we should eliminate the war on drugs and do it ourselves in a caring, in a loving, but also in a stringent manner, but in a manner that is stringent for restoration rather than for the further destruction of a person. So the war on drugs is not the correct methodology to follow if you're a Christian. Christians should be absolutely against the war on drugs, in my opinion.